Hey everybody, welcome to the Pucknology Writers Room. No cool Kevin intro today. He may join us at some point, but right now he is MIA, breaking the streak. Tonight, though, we are going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. A lot of little random news, a lot of non-news, So, yeah. So let's get down to business here. I guess I should introduce everybody first, since I usually forget to do that. Starting today in the starting lineup, we have Mr. Drew Weber.
What's up? Glad to be in the starting lineup again.
Pinch hitting, we got. I'm using a baseball quote. Jesus Christ. What have I done? Okay, this show's over.
It is the off season.
This show is over. That's it. Felix Chow.
What up?
And joining us as a special guest today, we have the one, the only Hockey Jerk.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So let's get to the news of the day, or at least the last day since we've spoken to you all. The Anaheim Ducks signed Antoine Vermette to a 2-year deal, $3.5 million contract, so $1.75 million AAV contract. For those that don't know, Vermette is 34 years old, and last season he played 76 games, scoring 17 goals, 21 assists, and 38 points, but was a minus 14. What do you guys feel about this Vermette signing after the buyout from the Coyotes? I guess start with Drew.
I mean, like I said before, the buyout of Vermette didn't make much sense to me. Like, yes, he was making a lot of money for his production, but he was still serviceable. He's still an NHL player. But I think the Anaheim Ducks, really picked up a good forward for a good price. I mean, he can still put up around 40 points a year. He got, I think, 37 last year on Arizona, and he is excellent in the face-off circle. Has a career 56.1% face-off percentage, and for a reference, Sidney Crosby only has a 52.6.
Well, that guy's a bum. We all know it.
Yeah, I know. He cheats in the face-off circle. I mean, But, I mean,
Yeah, he cheats.
If you don't want your team getting pinned in their own zone, winning faceoffs is the key to it, and having Vermette is a great solution to that problem.
Yeah, I think so too. Sorry, I was going to call on Drew again. Felix, what do you got for me?
I think this is a good I guess sign for the Anaheim Ducks. I think this will definitely boost their. I think this is going to boost their offense. And it's. I think this bodes well for them, and he's a good pickup for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Hockey Jerk, what do you got? What do you think about this Vermette signing?
I really like the signing, especially because you look at this Anaheim Ducks team who wanted to be better, but didn't really do a whole lot to make themselves better. And when you think about Vermette last year in the desert, he was playing up in the second line a lot, which I think at his age is a little over his head.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the limited ice time, on the Ducks' third line will be really good for him. And as Drew said, he's a guy where, despite his age, he can still put up a decent amount of points.
Yeah, I mean, 38 points on the Coyotes is nothing to scoff at. And I think that it's a nice, the Anaheim Ducks, for the most part this offseason, haven't really impressed me all that much. But I like this signing, obviously I don't think it makes up for David Perron leaving, but, if they can have other guys move up to where Perron was playing, that have, younger players that have been playing lower in the lineup, I think Vermette's a nice fill into that spot where you're not just calling up guys early to try and just fill spots. So I really like Vermette. I think, he's a serviceable NHL player, and I think that, yeah, it's as much as I hate to say it, probably one of the things that the Ducks have done this summer that I like the most. Sticking with the division, Radim Vrbata signs with the Arizona Coyotes for a $1 million one-year deal. Vrbata, for those that don't know, is 35 years old. He's played 63 games last year, scored 13 goals, 14 assists for 27 points, and was just a putrid minus 30. Putrid. Drew, go ahead.
Similar to Anaheim, I thought this is a really good deal for the Coyotes, especially at $1 million. I mean, he's a veteran middle six forward who's going to help guide that really young, still developing team, much like Shane Doan is going to next season as well. And not only that, but he takes very few penalties, and his possession numbers really aren't that bad. So when you're a bubble team like Arizona is, you need those those details in your game, if you want to be successful. And sure, he had that horrific, plus minus in Vancouver last year, but who didn't have a terrible year in Vancouver last year? I mean, they're the Canucks. So if you want to spend $1 million on somebody who's only 2 years removed from a 63-point season, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, I really I agree a whole great deal there because Verbata's a guy I like. Like when Verbata initially went to Vancouver, I was kind of hoping that Doug Wilson would scoop him up that offseason. Now, obviously, things didn't go great in Vancouver, but I wouldn't pin that on him. I mean, that's just a brutally constructed team at this point, in my opinion. And this is the preview I can't wait to get to because it's going to be just hysterics, I promise. I keep hyping the show, and then it's going to be the worst show we do. Felix, what do you think about Radomir Verbata?
I mean, I think first of all, I think we've already beat this to death, and I'm pretty sure you're going to beat it even more to death in the Vancouver preview. But yeah, that was obviously Vancouver that he played for. But I mean, obviously, this is a guy. I think he's gonna definitely help out. The Arizona Coyotes. So yeah, definitely he's gonna provide a lot of that and the I guess the skill and the talents and just help out the youth and all that kind of stuff. So definitely a great pickup.
Hockey Jerk, what do you got for me?
I really like the signing just because Arizona they're definitely a fringe team where if all the pieces are in the right places, they can make the playoffs as an 8 seed. And I think you kind of have to think about the whole Verbata going back home, where he's known for playing really well, and I think that will kind of boost him up as well. And like Drew said, he's only 2 seasons removed from a 30-goal year on a Vancouver team that had no business being in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, I don't know if Arizona's a playoff team. I think I think you're right. If things fall perfectly for them, I think that they could definitely be in the conversation. I just can't get behind that goaltending.
Who is a playoff team?
Not the Hurricanes.
Oh boy.
Had to get it out there.
All right. And just a reminder before I move on to the next segment that we do record live, and as well as we try to keep the language in check. Sometimes the language is warranted. So yeah, just remember that. Jimmy Vessey goes nowhere because this bullshit will never end. Also, he was not going to Detroit because Detroit is not close enough to Boston. But you know what is close to Boston? The Bruins. What do you guys? I can't be the only one that's just tired of this VC stuff. I think that he's going to be a decent player. I think obviously you expect at his age that he's going to come in and make some sort of impact. I think that should be expected, but you would think that this was like, I don't know, Connor McDavid's a free agent suddenly, and that's what the hype level is at this point. Hockey Jerk, what do you think of this whole Jimmy Vessey saga?
I think more than anything, it's a way to keep the NHL interesting when we get into August and stuff like that. You look at how old Jimmy Vessey is now, and you look at guys who are in his age range. Johnny Gaudreau, JT Miller, guys like that. They're already impressing at the NHL level, and granted, school's important, obviously, but Jimmy Vessey is a guy who wanted to stick around at Harvard for all 4 years, and so I think he's kind of stuck behind the pack when it comes to comparing him to other people in his draft class.
It's fair. Drew, what do you got?
I mean, I think the whole VC thing is just kind of adding to there's no news going on right now because it's August. But what didn't make sense to me was he doesn't want to play in Detroit because it's too far from Boston, but he'll play in Chicago, which is farther from Boston. So I think there's a little bit of there's something else going on there why he doesn't want to play in Detroit.
I just read it on Twitter, so it has to be true.
But, I mean, I still think Buffalo would be a friggin' perfect place for him, but who knows where he's going to end up. I mean, Pittsburgh's still in the running. I think Pittsburgh's like $3 million over the cap right now.
Yeah.
Wow. Felix, you got anything before I chime in here?
Yeah, honestly, really the only thing I have is I've just been wondering when the hell this thing's gonna end. The whole like the DC watch and everything. I'm just like, sign somewhere, darn it, you know. So
Maybe tomorrow.
It sounds like he's going to make his decision like by this
Yeah.
weekend. Kind
Are
of.
we
Yeah.
getting an ESPN special so he can make his decision? Like, that's how ridiculous this thing is. And look, I haven't seen enough of Jimmy Vessey to really make a judgment call on how good or not good he is. But I feel like if he doesn't, obviously, like, some of the teams that he wants to go to, like, I don't understand. Like, I thought Buffalo was the perfect landing spot, and I know we've kind of belabored this fact to death on a couple of shows now. But to some of these teams, like, if I'm looking at Buffalo and I'm looking at Boston, yeah, I guess Boston's in my hometown and I'm a free agent, so that's my right. But oh man, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, if anybody, I think even like people that aren't really smart hockey people can see that these two teams are going in completely opposite directions, and the direction Boston's going isn't good. It isn't good at all. So, oh man, I don't know. I mean, I guess he'd be better than most of their other draft picks because Boston's been drafting so terribly. So I guess there's that.
Zach
Yeah.
Senyshyn, future captain.
Hey, I like Senyshyn, but
I mean, the thing is,
he was
to me,
drafted way too far.
it just seems to me like VC's just been so friggin' picky, and like I've been trying to figure out why. And like I've heard that he wants to play close to home, and we touched on that too. But then he also, like you said, he wanted to play in Chicago, and I'm just like, okay, so then where does that lead us now? So.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing's a mess. I just hope it's over soon, and then I don't know what we're gonna talk about. We'll start doing double previews, double preview shows. We'll start doing two teams. We have to do that anyway, just based on the World Cup being so close. All right, so let's move on from Jimmy Vessey because nothing's really happened and nothing's gonna happen ever. I think we'll be talking about this in like December. Where's VC gonna sign before he can't sign anywhere? All right. So the Sharks prospects are going to travel to Colorado to take part in the rookie showcase with the Avalanche and the Ducks from September 17th to the 19th. Any thoughts on this? I'm gonna start actually because I'm angry. Once upon a time, the Sharks would go to Penticton, and it was awesome. Do you know why it was awesome? Because you could watch the games on the internet. Because it's Canada, so even if it's rookie tournament, the website, the Canadian teams would stream the games. Obviously, being Sharks fans, we kind of get hosed in that we don't get to watch a lot of preseason action, if any, on even just streamed on the internet. I don't care, man. Just stream it on the internet without commentary. Like, I'd be totally fine with that. So I kind of missed the trips to Penticton because I used to like really watching these rookie scrimmages with against the other teams, but it is what it is. Drew, what do you think of the scrimmage showcase? Rookies?
I mean, I'm not like ultra familiar with the scrimmage showcase or anything like that, but I do remember watching the Ducks-Sharks rookie game last season. I remember it was a really good time, to see players like Rourke Chartier, to see
Timo Meier.
I believe Timo Meier, to see LeBlanc and all that, playing in these games and see, okay, this is where the future of the team is at. Now, I don't know what, if people are going to be able to, view it or anything like that or get reports from it. So I kind of wish there was one in San Jose, but what can you do?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, all right, here we are. All right, start the show over.
I'm 9 for 9, and this is Pucknology Writers Room. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about what is going on with Jimmy Vessey, really, as well as the Sharks prospecting and some other stuff you guys have already talked about out in the Edmonton Oilers.
Dude, came in like the Kool-Aid man. Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kevin, since you just barged in and took over the show, why don't you tell us what you think about the Sharks scrimmage or prospect camp thingy with the Colorado Avalanche and the Ducks in Colorado?
I got nothing. Good night, guys. I I need a few moments, so please carry on. Sorry to barge in, but thanks for having me.
Felix, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I started trying to compose myself. So I think, yeah, I think these rookie games are awesome to watch. I think it does kind of display where the future of the Sharks is at right now, and it's I'll just say it's fun to watch, and yeah.
Yeah, I just hope they're on. Like, I hope they're watchable somewhere.
Yeah.
That'd be my concern. Hockey Jerk, any thoughts on this little rookie showcase?
I like, for one thing, that involves multiple teams because you kind of have the ability to, I guess, create the foundation for future rivalries or anything like that, as opposed to something like the Sharks development camp where it's just a scrimmage. And I mean, yeah, it's hockey to watch, but I feel like it's not as competitive as it could be if you were playing against other teams. And really, I mean, if I could watch it, that would be cool, but just send Kevin Kurz there to live tweet it. That's good enough for me.
I'll see I wonder if Zach's going.
That'd be cool.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. I'll have to have Zach. If Zach goes, we'll have to get him on again and let us know what he saw. All right, so yeah, what else are we talking about today? Saboka is going to return to the St. Louis Blues. Left for 2 years. He was playing in Omsk in the KHL for 2 seasons. 29-year-old. He's played in 381 NHL games. He's scored 35 goals, 88 assists, and 123 points in his career. And he has almost 300 penalty minutes playing in Boston and then St. Louis before leaving for the KHL. What do you guys think about Sabotka returning to play for the Blues? Kevin, are you ready? Because I know you really wanted to hammer this out.
I think so, except I have been completely out of commission all day. So did you just say that Saboka finally signed?
His agent says that he's coming back. So
okay, all right.
Okay,
here's my gripe on that. Then is we've been hearing about Saboka since May 6th or something like that, and it's over 3 months later that he's days away from being finalized. And I think Doug Armstrong of the Blues even said, I'll believe it when it actually happens. Right. And I don't deny, I think it will happen, but 3 months of hearing from his agent, we're days away and blah, blah, blah. How long does it take to sign a contract? Like, are we sending it by submarine over to Russia so that he can get it signed? Like,
carrier pigeon.
Yeah, exactly.
Pony Express.
So, but I mean, I think it's also a lot of hullabaloo over a third-line player. I think Saboka's a very good third-line player, and he's going to really round out the Blues very well. But he's still a third-line player, so is it going to be that much of an impact for them?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Hockey Jerk, what do you think about Sabotka coming back?
So, if I were to run into him on the street, what I would say is decide. That's all I would say. Because the summer of 2014, when he became a restricted free agent, he was awarded a contract by an arbitrator for the
Right.
Blues, and so he's stuck with the Blues for, I believe it was either 1 or 2 years, and he's the Blues property.
Mm-hmm.
He instead chose to bolt to the KHL, play 2 seasons there. Now he wants to come back, which that's fine because you owe them a year. And then, I read maybe a week ago that he had received another offer from Omsk, and he might consider that. And then I read today that he intends to come back to St. Louis. So really, just pick a place and stick with it. Just quit flip-flopping.
Yeah, Jimmy Vessey. Vladimir Saboka.
Yeah, but Jimmy Vessey can get away with it because he's not Russian. Therefore,
Saboka's not either. He's from Czech.
That's true. But he's still European. You're right. But he's still European, so that still counts. All right, Felix, anything on this?
Sounds like a whole lot more signing drama and where the hell players want to sign. But I think and I this was also pointed out earlier. I don't think it's gonna him being back is gonna make that much of a difference. I honestly don't. I mean, one is just one player, but I think it's just all this drama that I'm hearing right now on where he wants to sign, whether he wants to be back with the Blues and whatnot. I mean, it's just it's just make your decision.
Yeah, I gotcha. Anyone I haven't got to yet? Drew, did I get you yet?
No, not yet, but I don't
All
really
right.
have much to say on it.
Well, good. Then that's this guy. Yeah, the Senators announced that after they announced they had an announcement, they finally made their announcement. They are going to retire Daniel Alfredsson's number in December, I guess. I mean, this makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I know that, maybe the Senators didn't win a cup, but I don't think that you necessarily have to win a cup to get your number retired by a team. I think for all the stuff that he did in Ottawa, minus that whole little excursion to Detroit, yeah, I mean, it seems like it makes perfect sense to me. Slushy saying December 29th. So what do you guys think? Daniel Alfredsson's number retire, yay or nay? Drew?
Oh, absolutely. I think his number should be retired. He's been the face of that franchise since he came into the league, and he just had one heck of a career. But the thing is that now if you're like Patrick Marleau, are you thinking, hey, when I retire, I better get my number up in the rafters too, since Alfredsson's pretty comparable to me. So I'm just curious to see how it's going to affect, other teams kind of things. I think Alfredsson was a slam dunk.
Yeah. Felix?
Yeah, I think definitely he was the face of the franchise in that on that team for a long time, and so that's a no-brainer to me, and it's interesting, like, and you guys are we'll probably have this discussion on another time about the Hockey Hall of Fame, because you did mention that he never won a cup, yet he's still gonna have his jersey number hanging up in the rafters. So this the same argument could maybe, I mean, obviously for other players, I mean, in going to the Hockey Hall of Fame, would that be kind of for it too? But that's for another discussion. So I definitely think this is a no-brainer.
Fair enough. Hockey Jerk.
I think it makes total sense. Like Drew said, he's the face of their franchise. He racked up a lot of points. He played with them in the Cup final. I mean, I don't live in Ottawa, so I couldn't tell you, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's a big player, like in the community and charities, volunteering, that sort of thing. But something else to think about, and I mean, the name says I'm a jerk, but I really am trying to not be here. Ottawa, I mean, they don't have as much to really be excited about when thinking about the past of their team as compared to a team like, the Sharks or the Ducks, or, I mean, even Minnesota, stormed into the conference final back in 2003. So I feel like Daniel Alfredsson is kind of their peak of, like, past memories, I guess. So I think that kind of adds a whole wrinkle to the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, no, and I think that makes a lot of sense too. Kevin, what do you got on this?
Just that I kind of piggybacking off Hockey Jerk, I think it's interesting that the Ottawa Senators now, who have been to the Stanley Cup final one time, will now have two numbers retired for them. And I don't have my data with me, but I know that number 8 was retired for the Senators. So, but was that from the Silver 7? Because I feel like that dates back. But still, nevertheless, it's interesting because Tampa Bay doesn't have any retired numbers, and the Sharks don't have any retired numbers, and the Ducks have Solani and Niedermeyer. Are those the only two right now? But still, this era of teams is starting to retire numbers here. So I look at Ottawa and I wonder, are these other teams close? Drew mentioned Marleau, same breadth as Alfredsson in terms of production and his career and everything like that. I think that's a safe bet.
I don't mean to jump in here, but the number 8 that's retired is Frank Finnegan, who
Thank you.
played for the original Senators from 23 to 34.
Oh, it wasn't even the Silver 7 then. Okay.
Yeah, a long time ago. And then it was part of like a bring back the Senators type thing when they got the expansion team, and I guess he was the last surviving original Senator.
That's right. That's what it was. Thank you for the insight, everybody.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, look at the only guy that I would retire first might be Danny Heatley.
1507.
But
Yeah.
I mean, if not Danny Heatley, then why not Daniel Alfredson? Why not, right?
Wait, are you talking about retiring Danny Heatley as a player altogether, not his number?
Heatley, 1507 banner done.
Just raise a banner for every trade request he's had.
Fantastic.
We have a trade to announce. Danny Heatley has been traded for Danny Heatley.
Yes. But I mean, obviously, it makes a lot of sense. Daniel Alfredson, absolutely the face of the Senators. I mean, they went on that run all the way to the Cup final, with Alfredson there, and he was a loyal soldier. I mean, even when things started falling apart, he was a loyal soldier. He took less money to stick around. You can't really go wrong with retiring Daniel Alfredson. I mean, just aside from maybe, I know Slushy brought up the slap shot at Scott Niedermayer, but aside from that, I mean, pretty classy player, pretty classy on and off the ice. And I mean, come on, who didn't want to shoot pucks at that Ducks team? That's mean.
Yeah, I look at a guy like Jerome McGinley in that case, because Jerome McGinley was kind of a cheap shot artist his first 2 years, but nobody ever remembers that. They all think of this great, lovely young. Huh?
I said Shane Doan still is.
Oh. See, and I love Shane Doan. So
I
there
love
you
Shane
go.
Doan too, but let's call a spade here.
Yeah.
He's like Dustin. I don't want to say Dustin Brown, but he's the cleanest, dirtiest player in the league.
Yeah.
He's like the hockey version of Ric Flair.
Yeah, like he just never he does things and he just never gets called on it. All right, so some big news for Sharks fans, big happy times. Joe Pavelski named captain of Team USA. As far as I know, if this is officially official now, Joe Pavelski is the captain of Team USA. Woohoo! Kevin.
Love the man. Love the man. Should I put my Pavelski shirt on right now? I'll tell you what, though. Nice time. I wish I liked the jerseys more, because I've been dying to get a Team USA jersey forever. And a Pavelski captain's USA jersey, that'd be right in my alley. But I'm not a big fan of the design. Sorry, that's a tangent. But Pavelski, you rock, man. You really are Captain America now. Give me an action figure.
Felix.
I mean, honestly, this comes as no surprise to me. Obviously, we know what he's capable of. We know how good he is at scoring goals. We know how much of an awesome leader he is for the Sharks, and so it really comes as no surprise. And he's captain of Team USA and solidifies him as Captain America.
Hockey jerk.
I really like it. Pavelski's been my favorite player for a long time by this point. And as thrilled as I am, I have to think that part of the reason why is because of the whole uncertainty with Zach Parise's injury, maybe.
That's and that was kind of going to be my next question is, are you surprised? Because I'm kind of surprised that that it was Pavelski. Not that I don't think Pavelski's deserving of it. I just there's been some more. I don't know. There's just other players you'd think that, and maybe I'm just silly Canadian, out of touch with USA hockey. I just feel like there's other names on the US team that you would expect to get the call before Pavelski. Drew, what do you got?
I mean, even outside of being a Sharks fan, I really think Pavelski was the right decision, to be captain for Team USA. But like you said, there are other people that could have definitely gotten the call. Hockey Jerk brought up Zach Parise. Patrick Kane's on that team, kind of thing. No. I'm just saying. Just stating facts here. But I think, Pavelski is the right choice. He's played in international competition before. He just led a team that was out of the playoffs last season to the Stanley Cup Finals this season. So I think there's a lot to be said there.
Does Joe Pavelski get named captain if the Sharks don't have that playoff run?
That is a good question.
I don't think so.
That's a good question.
I don't think he does.
I don't
need
think
to
he
see
does
if he's
either,
even
but
on Team
I don't
USA.
think so.
Oh, he'd be on Team USA. Heck,
Oh, I
he'd
don't
go
know.
on
He'd be on
Team
Team
USA.
No, no. I mean, I meant I needed to see who's on to see who would likely be captain.
Whoa!
I think that he's on Team USA regardless, right?
Hashtag hot takes.
But I mean, yes, super hot takes. But you're telling me a guy like, I mean, you could make Patches. I could see Patches being the captain of the team. What about
What about
David
Kessel? Womp womp.
David Backus?
Oh God, no.
Well, I'm just saying like names that you would expect to be,
Right.
especially with it, being coached by Tortorella. Would David Backus surprise you as captain with the way this team's been constructed? No,
Not at all.
So I mean, there's some other guys on there that could definitely have gotten tabbed, but as the more I look at it, I mean, other than Kessler, I think Kessler, you could make a great case for Kessler, who's been in the trenches for Team USA for a long time. It feels like, but I mean, but as I go down this list, I mean, I can't really see, I don't think Pavelski is a bad choice, obviously, and I don't think it's as I think it's closer than people would think, though, because I think there are a couple of names that you could have tapped for. Ryan Suter. There's a guy you could tap too.
Ryan
and I don't
McDonough.
think anyone would blink an eye. Yeah, McDonough. I mean, there's a lot of guys they could have tapped as captain here. So, but I think Pavelski's a great choice based on who they have.
Right, and even if the Sharks don't go to the Cup final, you hear all the time, they say, oh, Pavelski's got the second most goals these last years, and Pavelski's so good at tipping the puck and this, that, and the other, and I feel like people are finally starting to recognize him for what he's done and who he is as a player. So I think even if the Sharks don't go to the Cup final, he's still a for sure option. And I know, granted he's not with the team anymore, but Brian Burke, who used to be the USA GM, was a huge fan of Pavelski's.
He's still involved though, isn't he? I thought he's in the Team USA Brain Trust.
He could be.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It's
I'm
all
looking
Dean
at this
Lombardi
team
now.
and I'm thinking, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point too. The other thing too with Pavelski is not just what he does on the ice; it's what he does, off the ice too. This is a guy that's generally the first person to the rink. He's the last guy to leave the locker room. That's what I've heard from forever. I've always heard that about Pavelski. He's the last guy. He's the first guy in, the last guy out. So I think that's a good. He has a lot of leadership qualities that probably get, if Joe Pavelski played for the New York Rangers, he'd be. I mean, he's already, I think, really come into his own now as a superstar, but he would be a superstar 3 years ago if he's a Ranger. And you can say that for a lot of guys that get kind of shuffled off to the West Coast over here. Anything else before anyone else want to chime in on Joe Pavelski or Team USA before we move along?
The only other thing I wanted to say was you look at the season when the Sharks missed the playoffs. That team was just nothing short of a disaster, and Pavelski was still like the first guy to talk to the media, and fan appreciation. He's taking the mic and he's talking to the fans. He's lighting the team up against Arizona in the locker room, and then he gets a hat trick.
Yeah,
and these are all things he did before he was the official team captain.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, it's going to be a good guy, and I think that one thing I think about captaincy is I think it's a little overrated in the modern game, based on players they're Jeff Merrick always says this, players are kind of mini corporations now. They got their agent. That's the guy they go to if they have a problem. They're not going to talk to Joe Pavelski. They're calling their agent generally. So I think that I think in an era where the captaincy is somewhat overrated, there still is importance to it, and I think that it still does matter to the point where as you say, you have to have someone who can deal with the fans, and you have to have somebody who can talk in the room when someone needs to talk in the room. So Joe Pavelski, he's not going to duck the media. I think he's going to be fantastic, and I just hope that regardless of how Team USA does, it doesn't somehow reflect badly on him unless he plays a dog crap tournament. I don't know. All right. Let's talk about, we are going to move on to our Edmonton Oilers preview. so Edmonton, that team. Current cap space, they've got about 8 million in cap space to play with. I don't know if they have anyone that needs to be, if they have any RFAs that are currently pending. Coming in, you have Milan Lucic, you have Adam Larsson, Jonas Gustafsson, and Mark Frazier. Going out, you have Taylor Hall, Luke Gadzik, Adam Clendenning, Andrew Miller, and Adam Carknell. Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot of movement in and out. Obviously, Lucic coming in, Hall going out. That's more of the significant names. The rest of them are kind of eh. Tops prospects. The interesting thing about here, actually, I'll read them off first, and then we'll discuss this. You got Jesse Puljujarvi, obviously, that just fell into their lap at the draft. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Darnell Nurse, Tyler Benson, Marcus Niemelainen. Yeah, so I mean, the one thing that when I was getting all the notes together for this, and something that I just couldn't get over was how bad they've drafted outside of like their obvious first round picks. Previous to Shirley coming in, I thought I thought they nailed their first 3 picks this last year, but man, what a mess that prospect pool is. So I mean, I guess let's start there, just on the prospects, and we'll work our way up to the actual roster. Hockey Jerk, I'll get you to start.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, their first-round picks, you know, they are the guys everyone talks about, and they are the ones who usually make the NHL right away. And then you look at, you know, picks 2 through 7, they are, I don't want to say that they take longer, because that's kind of expected with a later-round pick, but they're
Right.
sort of not even really thought about, to be totally honest. I couldn't tell you one, you know, Oilers draft pick after the first round, except for maybe some of the ones they had this year.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting way their team is made up.
Yeah, it's like just to go off some things here. I mean, obviously, 2014, 2015. Obviously, you know, it's a little soon to expect guys to make the lineup, other than, you know, your first round pick. Obviously, Leon Draisaitl's a cut above a lot of players in the league. I mean, a 3rd overall pick. You know, Connor McDavid's Connor McDavid. But when you go back, this is the thing that I could not get over. You go to the 2013 draft. The guy who's played the most games so far in the NHL, you have Darnell Nurse, who's played 71 games. The next guy is their 3rd round pick by the name of Bogdan Yakimov,
Who went back to the KHL.
Who went back to the KHL. You have Anton Shlipishev, who's played. I believe he's where is he in? Where is
He's in Bakersfield.
He's in Bakersfield, right?
Yeah.
You know, 11 games. You go to the 2012 draft. You know, Nail Yakupov, okay, 252 games. You have a 3rd round pick by the name of Juhar Khaira.
Oh, JJ. Just call him JJ. JJ Khaira. Yeah.
JJ Khaira. 15 games played. And then you have Eric Gustafsson, defenseman, 41 games played. Like, and then, you know, and nothing else. Like, in their whole draft class. 2011, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, obviously a good pick. 313 games. Oscar Klefbom, one of the most underrated defensemen in the entire league. 107 games.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's good. He's better than he gets a lot of credit for. You know, then you've got David Musil, who's played 4 games. And then you got Tobias Reeder, who's played 154. But nobody else. Like, that's how bad. And then you go back to the 2010. Like, they've hit so little on just guys that even play in the NHL. Forget not playing, significant in the NHL. They haven't even made the NHL. And I could do this. Sadly, I could do this all day. Like, I can go back to 2008, 2007, and just keep listing off guys who never played an NHL game, or played 1 game or 2 games and were never seen from again. Like, it's atrocious. Drew, go ahead.
Yeah, their drafting beyond the first round is absolutely horrific. If you look at their roster right now, they only have 2 people who they've drafted after the first round on that roster, and they're Anton Lander and Brandon Davidson. So those aren't exactly, impact guys. Hell, they're barely relevant. And as a reference, the Sharks have 5 players on their roster that they drafted after the first round, 6 if you count Dylan DeMello. So if you can't find any success in your drafting beyond the first round, your team is done for, and that's the reason Edmonton hasn't gone anywhere, is because you can't rely on having one good player every draft. You need more than that.
You also need the good players that you draft every year. Some of them need to be defensemen too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Go ahead, Kevin.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. You want to talk about the depth and the prospects and everything. Bakersfield was a carbon copy of Edmonton this past season in that they all offense, no defense, and their goaltending was okay. Like, let's talk about the goaltending actually for the Oilers. Cam Talbot got signed to that huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't really awful. He wasn't that great, but he wasn't awful, and he got better as the season goes on. So I'm curious to see how he'll go next year after a year of being a number one goalie. But for their depth just overall, the only guys they have that they can call up are forwards. Bakersfield scored over 3 goals. I think it was over 3.1 goals per game last season, and they gave up over 3.25 goals, and that was with decent goaltending at their level. That was with Nikita Nikitin, who's supposed to be an NHL defenseman, buried down in Bakersfield, and they still gave up 3.2 something goals per game and missed the playoffs. Like, that's how in shambles their depth chart is down on the back end. So that Taylor Hall for Adam Larson trade, but they needed the defenseman. Yeah, they needed the defenseman that badly that they had to give up Taylor Hall.
I could go on for hours about that, which we will. Hours.
Laurent Brossoit, a .920 save percentage, and they still gave up 3.25 goals per game last year.
That's ridiculous. Felix, what do you got on this?
Basically, after hearing horror story after horror story about the Edmonton Oilers, I've heard, every horror story you can, name and write in the book. Like, especially from Edmonton Oilers fans themselves. I've heard things about, them. Obviously, as you guys have touched on, their first round picks, their top picks have been, they're sound. But after that, it's like they don't have really any good, like, really at least even decent named guys, that you can really name, and it's not just that, and you guys are probably gonna touch on this too, but I looked through, like, the players that they've drafted, and it's just been like forward after forward after forward, and then it's like where are the defensemen? You need good defense, to win, championships, or but in this case, you gotta win. You gotta have good defense to even win games, and so it's just been a complete disaster for them in that drafting department.
Have I skipped anybody here just before I rant for a second?
No.
And I think the one thing that we should do at this point is we do have to play a little devil's advocate here. All this stuff we're talking about are all people that don't have jobs with the organization anymore.
True.
There was just a ton of cronyism and nepotism and just any other isms you can think of would apply to the Edmonton Oilers. If you were an old Oiler and you were, Craig McTavish's buddy or you were Kevin Lowe's buddy, then you had a job with the Edmonton Oilers, whether you were good or not. The other big problem with the Oilers, in the past, and because I kind of want to get to where they are now, players were handed things. No one worked for anything. Taylor Hall, all these guys, they got money right away. They were basically just like, okay, you're the top line guy. No one had to earn anything at the start. When they started filling up on these most recent draft picks, your Taylor Halls, your Yakupovs, your Eberles, your Nugent Hopkins, none of those guys earned anything. They were basically just handed their spots. They moved guys out to make room for them, and that's a huge problem, I think. And I don't know if these players are, some of these players. I don't think they're damaged irreversibly. I don't buy into this. Oh well, they're just used to losing. That's all they can do. Like, professional athletes aren't wired that way. They just aren't wired to lose. I believe those guys want to win. I'm sure they're frustrated as hell with not winning. But that's a problem though when you put guys in spots before they're ready. So now you look at the roster now, and obviously they've had to do some painful things to try and get the roster going, and one of those things was the Taylor Hall trade. For Adam Larson, and to me, I'm thinking, why not just trade him for PK Subban? But meh, who knows what's on the. I'm just saying. I mean, if you're going to trade Taylor Hall, at least that seems like a more legit one-for-one trade. Adam Larson was a really bad one-for-one trade.
Oh yeah.
Montreal.
You know what? But again, then they probably wouldn't have wanted him because something French something. So, I mean, and then you look at that, and then, and that's another thing. Keegan actually just brought that up, and that's another thing I want to bring up, too, was, they brought in Griffin Reinhart, that trade, and that trade really hasn't worked out for them either. I mean, are we at the point now where Griffin Reinhart, are we comfortable saying this guy's going to be a bust? Like, I feel like he's still young, that there may be some turning the corner, but I don't think he's ever going to be anything close to what he was, expected to be when he was drafted. So let's kind of just Taylor Hall, Griffin Reinhart. Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, Griffin Reinhart has been a big disappointment to me because I, like a lot of people, expected huge things out of the guy, and I don't remember what the Oilers traded to get him, but it's still a real. I mean, the Islanders basically got lucky by shipping him out when they did because he was okay last year in the AHL, and he wasn't very good in the NHL, and he's 22 years old, so there's still room to grow, but his time's running out. I mean, I guess his saving grace is the fact that he is on Edmonton, and like I said, like I ranted, they have no D.
Mm-hmm. Outside of Nurse.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm not saying they have zero defensemen, but overall, on the whole. Yeah.
All right. Felix, anything on the?
I do kind of want to talk about one thing in particular. Sure. How is Edmonton's player development? I mean, if you've been losing consecutively and this long, I mean, it's not just the draft, but I would think that player development might want to be looked at.
Yeah, I think again, when Peter Chiarelli came in, there was a huge house cleaning, and it's going to take time for we can really see. I mean, there's obviously you can look at things like the Lucic signing and the Hall trade, and you might think, okay, this isn't good, but we're not really going to see what Peter Chiarelli is able to do with this team. We're not going to see this for a couple of years before we can really say, all right, Peter Chiarelli's done this or done that. But I mean, you have to. I mean, that's the one thing. That's the one devil's advocate of this is that, there was a huge house clean in Edmonton. Edmonton was just from the top down, horribly run organization, and then they got Bob Nicholson in there to be president of hockey ops, and then after he took over, things really started to turn. But we're not going to see if Peter Chiarelli is the right guy for the job for another couple of years because it's going to take just that long to just undo the damage that is already done. It's going to be like when the Jets came over from Atlanta. There was so much damage. That core was so rotten that, until you restabilize that support, then it's a tough go. Drew, go ahead.
I'll just start with the Griffin Reinhart thing. I think if you're a 4th overall pick and you still don't have a consistent job in the NHL by the time you're 22, you're a bust. Plain and simple. There's no way around it. You should be playing consistently on a team if you're drafted that high and you've been a prospect for 4 years now. By the way, they gave up a 1st and a 2nd to get him.
Oh, it was 2 picks.
It was 16 and 33.
I was just saying mid-first, but
and 16 became Matthew Barzal.
Oh. Rest in peace.
I can't believe that because Barzal, I couldn't believe Barzal fell so far. Not to completely derail the conversation, that's who I had the Sharks taking at 9.
Yep.
Yeah, but and then going on to Taylor Hall, that trade still just I understand there were issues in the locker room with Taylor Hall, but that doesn't excuse you not getting a better player. If you want to trade him for those reasons, fine, go ahead, but you could have done better than Adam Larson. Really?
Yeah.
And then it kind of makes you think when Edmonton drafted Puljujärvi instead of Juolevi, is that when they were like, okay, now we have this open to deal Hall for a defenseman kind of thing? Because I almost think if they draft Juolevi, they don't move Hall.
So basically, blame Columbus for that whole trade by not taking Puljujärvi.
Yes. Or by not trading down for someone else to take Puljujärvi.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you though? I mean, if a player like that just drops into your lap, stupid not to take him. I mean, in the top, when you're drafting, that's the one thing too though, is I know people like they should get a defenseman, and I've said they should have drafted defenseman, but at the same time, when you're drafting top 5, you take the best player on the board.
Yeah, and they got Benson too, who I think a year ago was projected to be like a top 5 pick at one point, and then he got hurt as season went down. They got him at 32.
32.
And I mean, so they got a good draft this year, but again, forwards.
Yeah. All right. Anyone didn't chime in here? Go ahead.
Yeah. So
Sure.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Is Griffin Reinhart a bust? Yes, and here is why. They drafted him number 4 overall in 2012, and since then he has played 8 NHL games.
He played 29 last year.
Did he?
I thought so.
Yeah, he has 37 games.
You are right. My bad.
Yeah.
8 NHL games before the trade, and
Okay.
instead of at the time the Islanders were not expected to be a playoff team, and instead of giving him, I guess, a better chance to show what he's worth, they were like, hey, we need to pick up Nick Leddy, and we need to pick up Johnny Boychuk, and Calvin
they
DeHaan's
drafted
really
Pulock
good.
too,
Yeah, Ryan Pulock, Adam Pelech, the list goes on. And, it's a shame, too, because of how high he was drafted, that he just hasn't lived up to those expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Taylor Hall trade, whatever attitude problems or whatever was there, you have to try and salvage any possible relationship because he is, you look at the stats, he is one of the best 5-on-5 guys in the league, and the Edmonton gave him away for Adam Larson, who's no slouch, but he's not a franchise defenseman that he was projected to be. And kind of going on the whole attitude thing, you look at the guys who have kind of called out Taylor Hall. Clefbaum, who played 107 NHL games, and Edmonton's like, oh, let's give him $30 million. And I don't know. I'm not totally thrilled with Clefbaum either. And then Ben Scrivens, who wasn't even good enough to be the very bad Montreal Canadiens backup this year. I just want to know where these guys get off on saying Taylor Hall wasn't a good fit for the Oilers when they were a worse fit, if you ask me.
Yeah, and the thing too, I agree though. I think Puljujärvi definitely made Taylor Hall expendable.
Right.
I don't have an issue with the fact they traded Taylor Hall. Look, this team is loaded up front. Draisaitl's the real deal. Connor McDavid's Connor McDavid. You still have Eberle. You still have Nugent Hopkins. I kind of thought a center would be the guy to go, but it's not that I don't have an issue that they traded Taylor Hall. That's fine. They're top heavy. They need to make room for other contracts that are going to come in. Everyone can't make $6 million on the team. I get that. But the return was terrible. That's the problem I have. It's not that he got traded, it was just that the return was awful. And I don't dislike Adam Larson at all. I think he's a good defenseman. He's probably a number 2 on a lot of teams in this league, maybe a 3-4 on a really good team. But he's not a number 1 defenseman at all. And maybe he was on New Jersey, but New Jersey's awful.
And that's what I kind of wrote about is if you look at, analytics and points and stuff like that, Adam Larson is basically Justin Braun. So can you imagine the Sharks trading Justin Braun for Taylor Hall? Because that's pretty much what New Jersey did.
I don't know where Taylor Hall's going to play on this team, but sign me up for that.
It's like you'd think they'd at least, Adam Larson in a second or something like that. You couldn't do that trade straight 1-for-1. Either go out and get a better, a true number 1 defenseman, as opposed to this 2-3 guy, or get the number 2 in a pick. But I'm not sure how good Larson's going to be with, not a true number 1 guy next to him.
I think anybody that played the NHL video games and tried to make that trade, their system probably crashed.
That's why I don't have an Xbox.
No, I do want to touch up real quick on that Hall trade though, because what I don't like about the deal is I feel it makes the Oilers' forward core a lot less dynamic. Because I think it's a power forward at left wing, a playmaker at center, and a super skilled player at right wing on their top three lines. Because it's Lucic, looking over their depth chart, maybe not actual lines, but their depth chart. Lucic, McDavid, Eberle, Pouliot, Nugent-Hopkins, Puljujarvi, Maroon, Draisaitl, and Yakupov. It's all power forward on the left, playmaking on the center, and skill on the right. And while that's a nice balance for it, basically all you need to do is load up the left side defense, take out the right wing every single time. Does Nugent-Hopkins is not very good at faceoffs anyway. Does he move to left wing to fill Hall's void? That's the one thing I didn't like about Hall moving.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you here. I think, like I said, I don't have really much to add to that on the Taylor Hall trade. What the other thing they did this summer though was bringing in Lucic and for that ridiculous contract. And I know we've kind of already hammered this signing, but let's do it again. Let's do it again. Drew, start.
I mean, I'm not a Lucic fan or anything like that. I thought he came in for too much money. I think the concept, the idea of bringing someone in like Lucic is okay. I don't know. I mean, the team has no depth to begin with, and then you pay him that much. It's not going to work. He didn't work in LA. What makes you think he's going to work in Edmonton?
He's going to protect the kids. Go ahead, Felix.
I thought it was a little surprising, honestly, but I mean, the one thing that does stand out to me is that he was drawn to Edmonton because of Connor McDavid, and obviously, granted, who wouldn't want to play with Connor McDavid, but still a bit of a surprise for me, So, yeah.
Yeah, to me here, I'll just go and I'll pass it around again. I just don't know on what planet Milan Lucic is worth $6 million. I don't get it. He's a good, he's a decent enough player, but he's not going to rack up the points. And I think that it's a lot of money to pay for a overgrown angry monkey. Jerk, what do you got on me?
I mean, I'm a big fan of bashing on Lucic as much as the next guy. I mean, big contract, big nose, big attitude problem, all that stuff. Likes to jump guys at the bench. Likes to slash and cup check, all that good stuff. But you look at the stats. He's a pretty underrated goal scorer, I feel. And so I think for the right price, he would have been a good fit. But it's the whole, it's July 1st, and all of a sudden we have to pay these guys double what they're worth, or they won't want to sign with us. And then I think it was Ian you mentioned earlier, the whole old boys club buddy nepotism thing going on. Lucic and Chiarelli are buddies, whether they say it in public or not. They are buddies, and I feel like that factored into the signing a whole hell of a lot more than McDavid did.
Yeah, I think that if you're looking for, reasons why they'd sign. Obviously, the Boston connection is huge. Just they don't have Tim Thomas playing out of his mind for a year. That's the problem there. I don't get the money. I think for less money, I don't think I'd have as much of a problem with this signing. But I can't understand the dollar amount. The full no move. Signed until 2023 or some ridiculous nonsense like this. There's Edmonton's done some dumb things, obviously, as we allude to the Hall trade. But I feel like they've done some smart things too. And it just, man, what a mess. What a mess. All right.
Who else have a $23 million signing bonus for Milan Lucic.
Well, when you own the biggest pharmacy in Canada, you can do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I guess Dennis Seidenberg's not buddy-buddy with Peter Chiarelli because he's on the market and Edmonton needs defense, so... Sorry, Dennis. I guess you're SOL.
Okay. Felix, go ahead on this. Yeah, go ahead, Felix.
Really, I mean, like all in all, I have to say is that I mean, all the past train wreck in Edmonton. I mean, that's all been that they're all trying to clean that up, but the effects. I mean, we're obviously still seeing the effects of that, of that dumpster fire, if you will, and the whole. I mean, I don't know. It's just maybe we'll see the effects of this current regime, like maybe in next couple of years we'll see. But I mean, in the end, I think that and we'll probably get to predictions and all that later. But Edmonton is definitely not making the playoffs, and yeah.
I still think Connor McDavid should ask for a trade after that Lucic signing, but
that would have been hilarious.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned on Writers Room a while back. Was that should have been McDavid's out clause right there, signing Milan Lucic.
Yeah, it's like Lucic wants to play with McDavid, but does McDavid want to play with Lucic?
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping that in one of the few times Lucic and McDavid played together in a Kings vs. Oilers games, I was hoping that I could find something of like Lucic just douching it up against McDavid. Like that would be just the greatest thing.
No, it was all couture last year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's the part that drives me nuts about him, though. Is like he's such a big baby. He can dish it out, but don't even look in his direction, or it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess to kind of put a bow on this, what are your thoughts on the Oilers going into this season? Where do they finish? What are your expectations? So I guess I will start with the jerk.
I don't know. They're kind of the same thing as the Oilers, at least for the Coyotes, at least for their forward core. If they can get the right pieces going at the right time, they have a chance to be threatening. But their problem is they don't have a franchise defenseman like the Coyotes do, like the Sharks do, like every other team does. They appear to be content with middle of the road guys filling out their spots. And I mean, Cam Talbot is good, but I don't think he's the starting goalie on a Stanley Cup team.
Yeah, that's fair.
Kevin, go ahead.
What place do you have them, Hockey Jerk?
Sixth.
Yeah, I have them sixth in the division as well. I'm mostly curious for the Tom McLellan factor because he was obviously signed as a big name coming in to shake up the Oilers for the fact that they had no decent coaching for a number of years, or at least playoff-worthy coaching for a number of years. And if the Oilers struggle like I think they will this season, will McLellan be on the hot seat? Or is he even going to be deserving of being on the hot seat when you've got a team that is still a couple of years away from being as rounded out as they should be?
Felix.
I actually do think that is a very good question, Kevin. I mean, obviously when you have when you're coaching a bad team like this, I mean when you're trying to get the team chemistry going and just the whole winning mentality. I mean, is the coach really to blame? I mean, really, when they, especially when it wouldn't be surprising if they kind of just fell again, and it's just, I mean, to me, that's I just think it's not going to be Tom McClellan's fault, obviously, and so that whole group is going to have to once again look in the mirror, see what they can improve on, all that kind of stuff, and so it's just it's going to be a while till they finally have relevancy in.
Drew.
I think the Oilers are going to trend upward, but barely. I think a full season of Connor McDavid is going to be great for him. And I do think he and Lucic will eventually develop some chemistry together. I think they can be a good pair on that first line. But, you still don't have a number one defenseman. You just traded away, Taylor Hall, who is arguably your second best player on your entire roster. And while they have young talent on that NHL roster, there's not much in the pipeline. The pipeline's basically already playing in the NHL. And if they continue to draft like crap, you have to hope that someone like Larson or someone like Clefbaum is going to be able to develop into that number one defenseman, because they're not going to do anything until they get that, that franchise defenseman to fill that top spot. So I have them placing sixth as well, and I don't think it's going to be close. I think Arizona is going to be way ahead of them, and I think Vancouver is going to be way behind them. I give it at least 8 points in both directions.
Yeah, I think that Connor McDavid's the big X factor here. To me, I agree. I think that there's too many better teams still. I don't say good teams, but there's too many better teams in the Pacific Division. But if they can get goaltending from Talbot that they got from him near the end of the season, that can change a lot. A healthy Connor McDavid, that's a huge X factor. I really like what the Oilers have potential to do down the middle, because it reminds me of Pittsburgh back in like 2009 when they had, they have the potential to have that McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, this three-headed monster down the middle, and down the middle is where you're going to win in the West.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's a lot to like about this team. I think, and of the defensemen, I think a name that hasn't been mentioned enough is probably Darnell Nurse. I think Darnell Nurse is going to be just a stud defenseman for this team, and I think that he could end up being better than both Clefbaum and Larson. And maybe I'm a little biased there, but I think that it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I don't like the Lucic signing, but is it the end of the world? No. Is Lucic probably better than a lot of the other stiffs that they probably would have on the forward core instead? Yeah, probably. So I'm curious to see what they do, and I think that although I'm with you guys, I think where do they finish? Better than Vancouver, and that might be just about it. But again, there's a lot of teams in the Pacific where if things line up, they can really surprise, and I think Edmonton has the potential to be that team. And I know that we've said this year in and year out, but I just I still think that if things kind of go their way, and if they can get decent goaltending from Talbot and Connor McDavid has a healthy season, this team could be something else. And I know, again, we've said this forever, but it'd be silly to think the potential isn't there. On the McClellan thing, I think that I still think T-Mac kind of gets a pass because, again, it goes back to what I said. It takes time to undo the damage done by the previous regime, and it's not going to get fixed in a year. Nothing like that gets fixed in a year. So I think Todd McClellan probably has a little bit of rope, but if they did want to move on from him, it's not like they don't have the money to just pay him off and send him home. But I don't think he's on the hot seat at all, to be completely honest. The media might want him there, but I really
no. That's what I mean. I'm not saying it's all justified, but I wouldn't be surprised if we hear a lot of rumblings in the media, whether it's warranted or not.
Yeah, the media. Media needs to stop running teams, especially in Canada. Oh my goodness! All right, let me take a look at the notes here, but I think we're pretty much got it all finished up. Wow, awesome. All right. We didn't really get any questions today, so so much for that.
When I got back on the show, everyone left. All the people in the chat room left.
Oh man, the chat room left, and they were like, no one's watching. It's August. They're like, we probably got to like Jimmy Vessey, and they're like, oh, not this show too. I didn't get into the notes. Ben Smith, former Shark, signed with, I believe, who did he sign with? The Avalanche.
Avalanche.
Good luck to Ben Smith. I like Ben Smith. It's unfortunate that he slept with Peter DeBoer's wife and thus got relegated to the NHL forever. But I like Ben Smith, and I'm really sad that he didn't get a fair shake. In the Sharks organization under Peter DeBoer. Other thing, there was a list of top 10 goalies from EA Sports for the NHL 17, and Jonathan Quick was number 2, which was crazy. And somehow Marc-Andre Fleury is still a top 10 goalie in this league. How does that make you feel? Drew, go ahead.
I don't know. Who was number 1 on that list? Was it Price?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
As well, it should be.
Yeah, that it definitely should be. Yeah, I don't
I think
know.
it was. I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say it was the top 3 was Price, Quick, Holtby.
Schneider was number 4, I believe.
Schneider was
Good
number
call.
4.
Good call.
Yeah,
Big Schneider fan.
Number 4. Marc-Andre Fleury was like in the middle somewhere.
8.
Oh, was he? Okay, he was 8, so he was
Pretty
pretty
sure.
at the end.
I don't understand how you can be like the
Other names: Lundqvist, Rene, which I think maybe Rene. I don't know if Rene's a top 10 goalie in this league anymore either.
He's top 10 at smashing his stick.
Hey, he's a pro, man. Ron Hextall must have been just so proud of him watching that game. Yeah, I can't remember. I mean, obviously a lot of the regular names. No Martin Jones, surprisingly. Surprised me anyway, in the top 10. I thought Martin Jones should probably be in there, especially over Marc-Andre Fleury. What the hell?
Mm-hmm. Like how?
Go ahead, Drew. Go ahead.
Like how are you a top 10 goalie in this league and not be sure if you're going to be the starting goalie for your team? That doesn't make sense to me.
And Murray also not in the top 10, obviously.
I will
Because
see
Marc-Andre Fleury's better, so... Oh, man. Who knows what happens with Murray, right? But, man.
But I will say this. #A logic.
Yeah.
I think it's harsh to discredit Fleury a little bit, though, because two seasons ago he had probably his best season in the league, and last season he was doing very well until the concussion issues. And the reason why he wasn't the number 1 goalie for Pittsburgh wasn't because of Matt Murray. It was because he got hurt. Then in the playoffs, they didn't want to really go back to Fleury, even when because Murray was really good in the first round, and then he was kind of teetering there in the middle rounds of the playoffs, and they thought about Fleury, but it went back to Murray. Obviously, it worked out for them. But
the Penguins win the Stanley Cup with Marc-Andre Fleury's backstopping the team?
See, that's the question there, because there's always the fragility of Marc-Andre Fleury in net during the playoffs.
Right.
So,
yeah, I was just gonna say, since Pittsburgh won the Stanley Cup in 2009. Marc-Andre Fleury has the worst playoff save percentage for a starting goalie. I believe it's like .870 or something like that.
Well, there was that one series against the Flyers that he gave up like 49 goals in 4 games or something.
You think about Pittsburgh in the playoffs the last few years. I mean, you mentioned the series against the Flyers. 2013, they nearly got scared by the Islanders. They got scared by the Blue Jackets. They got bounced by the Rangers. Like, granted, they kind of rectified the ship a little bit this year, but Fleury's not doing himself any favors.
No, but you could say the same thing about Nabokov. Nabokov was awesome in the regular season every year, and he was all right in the playoffs.
True.
But everyone still thought he was a top 10 goalie.
Well,
I'm not saying that Fleury definitely is, but I think it's a little harsh to just say, oh, flat out, he's not a top 10 goalie anymore. He might not be, but
the key difference though is, I mean, you look at the Penguins team this year and the Penguins team in 2009 and in 2008 when they went to the Cup final. Like, they had 3 solid lines that could all score, all play defense, like perfect. Like, I don't want to say perfect, but near perfect lines. And then you look at the Sharks, like top 3 lines back in their heyday, like they had 1.5 good lines, but it really. Not until this year have the Sharks had like 3 really complete lines that can all dominate in their own way.
Heck, even that 4th line could dominate too. It's just in a different way.
Just in different ways.
Yeah.
And you look at, and the other thing too is you look at the Penguins. Let's as much as I hate to admit it and be a downer here, it's not like Matt Murray had to did a whole lot of work in that Cup final.
Right.
He didn't exactly see a lot of rubber.
I mean, yeah, that Pittsburgh defense was,
It was smothered. Like they changed their whole game plan. But we're not going to talk. I'm having flashbacks and I'm going to cry. It's probably time to get off the air. All right.
What about the Colorado short list of coaches that came out today?
Oh, did it come out?
Oh,
What
I didn't see that.
So I was thinking it should be Travis Green, who coaches the Utica Comets, Lane Lambert, who's assistant coach for the Capitals, and Kevin McCarthy, who's the Predators' assistant coach. I was thinking those would probably be the three top candidates. And ended up being Green, Lambert, Jared Bednar, who coached the Monsters to the Calder Cup championship, and another. What was who's the dude that Scott Arniel? Scott Arniel was the other one. So apparently, according to Mike, oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name, Mike Greenway of the Denver Post, it's down to those four.
That's interesting. I think you know what, I like it because it's not the retread machine that normally it's what NHL coach is fired. Let's grab him. He's not fired for a reason. I always like seeing new blood kind of get into the coaching ranks. I hate that it's such a it's always which coach is fired. Like a lot of what was the name that a lot of people brought up? Yeah, the coaching carousel. Who was the name that everyone brought up right away after Wild left? I can't remember his name, but
you mentioned Bob Hartley.
Yeah, I really like Bob Hartley.
Bob Hartley, there's one. I'm trying to think of someone else too. Maybe it was Bob Hartley. I don't remember. But I don't mind Bob Hartley. But
Paul McLean was.
I was gonna say
Zach
Zach Devine and I were talking about Paul McLean, and I didn't realize until Drew pointed it out that he's an assistant with the Ducks.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just started too. Like I think he got hired in June.
Yeah.
No, he's been there a year.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
That's my thing about guys like Arniel or Lambert is they're current assistant coaches for other NHL teams. So yeah, Colorado needs a coach, but you're 3.5 weeks away from training camp. Why are you gonna willingly give away one of your assistant coaches now, this late into the summer? Like,
because
I think
you're not. It's no one tells the assistant coach they can't go unless they're tapped for the next job. Like you're not gonna purposely hold someone back just to be spiteful.
Man, if there was only some kind of draft pick compensation for that.
You know what? I didn't mind the draft compensation. They just did it wrong. It was just, if it was just for guys that were actually working and not just under contract, that would have been fine. The fact that it had to be everybody ruined it for everyone else. And I don't blame, like, for a team like Detroit, who has just had their front office just repeatedly raided summer after summer. Yeah, it's silly. All right, so that's probably it. We should probably wrap it up there before we start rambling about something else, and just to make sure the show is as long as all the other ones. Hockey Jerk, you're our special guest today. Tell everyone how they can get a hold of you.
They can go on Twitter and click the search bar and type @hockey_jerk. About 10 minutes ago, I just posted a Mr. Krabs meme about Todd McClellan, so if that's your thing, go check it out. And if not, well, that's fine too. I mean, I like to think I'm funny, so I hope you think I'm funny too.
Absolutely. All right. Felix, have you done anything lately?
I think I don't even remember anymore. And I've just been so all over the place. But anywho, I am at Polterpuck. You can obviously find me on Twitter. And I write for, as I've said before, I write for Ice Station UK, Blades of Teal, and of course Pucknology. So yeah.
Drew.
All right, my name's Drew Weber. You can find me on Twitter using the hashtag #GoHurricanes.
Oh my God. Check the pinned tweet, Drew. Check my pinned tweet.
Hey, sample sizes. Come on, you're talking to the analytics guy here. You can also find me at puck_over_glass. You can. I'll be writing about analytics and comparing people to Justin Braun, apparently.
Kevin.
I am at Kevin Lacey 22. I'm the guy that barged in the middle of Pucknology Writers Room this evening. So thank you all for watching and listening and dealing with me and allowing me to join you. And thank you at Eric Landy from Pucknology After Dark for getting my computer back up and running so that I was able to join you this evening.
All right. That is fantastic. I am, first before I say anything about me, because you all know about me, I'm boring. You can, if you like what you saw or you like what you listened to, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Pucknology Writers Room. I said Pucknology After Dark. I'm sure they would like that. Subscribe to our channel, Pucknology Writers Room. If you are currently watching the video, please subscribe. If you haven't already, you can also find the show in audio format on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and if it's not on a podcatcher that you like to use, then please let me know and I will make sure it gets there. I just wrote an article on pucknology.net yesterday, I believe, where I talked about players that I expected to make an impact either on the Sharks or the Barracuda that were newer faces, and that it's awesome, so you should check that out. And yeah, other than that, I'm Ian Reed. You can find me on Twitter at iReadPucknology. If you ever have like a question that you want on the air for a show, let me know. Tweet it at me, direct message me, whatever. And I will be happy to make sure that we talk about it on the show. We will be back next week, God willing, at whatever time it is there, 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern.
And there will be 9 guests on the show next week because
that's right.
Everybody wants to talk about the Vancouver Canucks.
It's not Vancouver next week. It's LA.
Oh, even better.
Alphabetical order.
Man, the King's always messing things up.
I know.
That Vancouver show is going to go like 3 hours long, and that's going to be a preview.
Yeah,
We won't talk about anything else.
That show. It's just Vancouver. Oh my goodness! All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support so far. We're gonna kind of get things a little tightened up here as we get closer to the season. Stay tuned to Pucknology World Cup coverage coming up. We're not gonna start milking it already, but we will definitely hit on it soon. Other than that, enjoy your night. Thanks for paying attention to us. Bye.